Glasgow, late 1968. The Barrowland Ballroom sat in the East End like a bright, noisy heart in a body that was otherwise dark and wet. On Friday and Saturday nights, the place filled with music, cigarette smoke, and young women in their best dresses. The bands played loud. The floor shook. Outside, the streets of the Calton and the surrounding tenements waited in the rain, quiet and poorly lit once the last buses had gone. He arrived in the city without announcement. Nearly 80 years had passed since the autumn of 1888 in Whitechapel. The world had changed more than he sometimes liked to admit. Gaslight had given way to electric. Newspapers moved faster. Police methods had improved, though not yet enough to truly threaten him. He had spent the decades between those 2 points moving carefully, feeding rarely, and never staying long enough in one place to leave a clear trail. Glasgow in the late 1960s offered what he needed: a dense working-class population, dance halls that mixed strangers, and streets that still held deep shadows after midnight. He began at the Barrowland. He did not dance. He stood at the edges, dressed neatly, hair tidy, manner polite. He watched how the nights unfolded, which women left alone, which ones accepted company, which routes they took when the music ended. He learned the timing of the last trams and buses. He noted the quieter closes and back courts where a body might lie for hours before being found. The accent he used was soft, educated, almost gentle. It made people lower their guard. The first killing took place on a wet night in February 1968. He left the ballroom with a woman who had been dancing. They shared an umbrella. She talked easily. He listened. When they reached a darker stretch of street near a tenement close, he struck with the same economy he had used in Whitechapel. There was little struggle. While she still lived, he fed 2 small, precise punctures placed behind the ear and under the hairline, positioned so that later examination would be unlikely to notice them beneath the other injuries. He arranged the scene to suggest a sexual attack or a robbery. Before he left, he tore a page from a small Bible he carried and placed it near the body. The verse was a private detail, almost a signature he had not used before. He did not expect it to become important. The body was found the next day. The investigation began, but slowly. He waited months before the second killing. In August, he returned to the Barrowland. The pattern was the same: the polite approach, the shared walk, the quiet street, the careful feeding, the Bible verse. This time, the city noticed more quickly. 2 women from the same dance hall, killed in similar ways, was enough to raise the temperature. Detectives began to interview men who frequented the ballroom. Descriptions circulated of a tall, well-dressed man with a soft voice and reddish or fair hair. The press eventually gave him a name: Bible John. He continued to watch. The third killing came in October 1969. By then, the atmosphere around the Barrowland had changed. Women left in groups more often. Some refused company from strangers. The police presence was heavier. He adapted his approach, choosing his moment with greater care. The feeding remained exact. The verse was left again. The body was placed where it would be found, but not immediately. When the connection to the previous 2 murders was made, the investigation intensified. Hundreds of men were questioned. Photo fits were produced. The dance hall itself came under closer scrutiny. He felt the pressure the way he had felt it in London in the autumn of 1888, a gradual closing of easy opportunities, an increase in attention, the sense that continued activity in the same hunting ground would eventually become dangerous even for him. He did not kill a 4th time in Glasgow. One night in late 1969, he simply stopped appearing at the Barrowland. The neat clothes were put away. The soft accent was discarded. He left the city without ceremony, moving on as he had always done when a place grew too warm. There was no final letter to the newspapers, no last body staged for maximum effect. The series ended without explanation. The years that followed produced theories, suspects, and books. Men were named and later cleared. The 3 women, Patricia Docker, Jemima MacDonald, and Helen Puttock, remained the only confirmed victims. The case stayed open. Documentaries revisited the Barrowland. Amateur investigators argued over DNA, timelines, and possible links to other crimes. None of it produced a name that held. The man who had walked those wet Glasgow streets after the dancing ended had never required a lasting identity. He had only required the dark, the rain, the brief window when a polite stranger could still lead a woman away from the lights of the ballroom, and the knowledge that some patterns are noticed only after the person who made them has already gone. By the time the questions grew serious, he was no longer there to answer them.